let's start. Let's begin. Good morning, everybody. I would like to welcome you on behalf of our Intergroup Urban from European Parliament, and to our today's meeting, especially concentrated on the very important initiative, which was from the very beginning the point of interest of many local authorities, but also European institutions. Before giving the floor to our speakers, I must share some remarks from my side. I remember the first meeting of Convent of Mayors, and I remember at the beginning it was some kind of doubts concerning the status of this network. I think that first the questions has been asked by the Committee of Regions. What is the Convent of Mayors in relations to Committee of Regions? It was also asked by the Association of Cities, like the energy cities at that time. The question was at that time, who is the owner of the whole initiative? I remember the meeting, a very symbolic meeting of many mayors, many of them Italians, I remember. And of course, from the very beginning, we as members of the Parliament interested in the urban issues, we are asking what is the goal of this activity? To show who is more active or less active, and to promote these who are active, or to share their experience concerning the saving energy of climate change, etc. And sharing the good experience, or is it much more to create the support for the cities who are interested in achieving the goals? And at that time, there was no Green Deal. I would like to remind you, this was the beginning of the debate about the energy savings, about the climate change, about the air pollution, etc. So, and at that time, there was a difference between some of the cities which said that it was too expensive. And for example, Heidelberg, who was ready to give the possibility to build the houses only if they are completely passive, etc. So I remember the time that we were asking, do we have any European support for this activity? And do we have any special fund? Because if the cities, they make the effort, to achieve the goals, they should be supported and they should be rewarded in a way. So in the Convent of Mayors from the very beginning, it was very clear that if you promise to achieve the goals, you can stay in the Convent of Mayors, but if you don't do it, you will be, in a way, excluded from the Convent of Mayors after some time. So because it was the quite elite group of cities. I'm making this introduction because I think that we will listen to the speakers to say, well, what is the situation today of the Convent of Mayors? And the questions are the same. Is it much more symbolic action, or is it much more practical and a kind of support for the cities, or to motivate the cities? And you know very well, and me as a former mayor many years ago, I remember that my city council was very, very sensible as far as concerns the international traveling. So saying that, okay, what is the profit for the city? And I think this is exactly the same. What is the profit for the city to be in the Convent of Mayors? After several years, Convent of Mayors is now stable and it has its own prestige. And especially when even yesterday there was an important meeting and the speech of President of the European Parliament, of Mr. Sassoli, and of course the underlying the role of Convent of Mayors in a completely new situation with the Green Deal And of course, in a very difficult challenges like the whole debate about Fit for 55 and all the controversies which are coming concerning the heating of the cities, the prices of energy, etc. So something which from the beginning was quite promotion and symbolic ambitious of the cities, from my point of view, now became much more operational in a way. But I think that this is extremely interesting, especially today, when, especially in the parliament, we are facing extremely difficult debates about the climate legislation and about the 50 or 55. And we need a clear voice coming from the cities. We need, as member of the parliament, we need it. I mean, you know, we don't, sorry, Friday morning, we don't need any blah blah concerning the how beautiful we will be and how ambitious we will be. No, we need a very clear voice coming from the cities. What is important, what is not important, what is feasible and what is not feasible, what can be achieved and what is not possible. What are the costs and how can we protect the citizens, and how we can guarantee that achieving the goals, it will not be too painful for the families, etc. Okay, so let's start our debate. Our meeting is planned for maximum 2 hours to 11. We have 2 speakers. The next we will have debate. Please raise your hand if you want to take the floor after these 2 speakers, or if you can write it on the chat. And of course, just for your information, the whole intergroup secretariat is Kasia, who is here. Please show your hands. Yes, hello, and Kasia, and everything which is technical support is from Poland and from our office in Katowice. So the people who are working with me in Katowice, they are the technical team which is preparing the whole action. So as you know, we are very European, even after yesterday's verdict of Polish Constitutional Court. So we are not ready to leave European Union. Anyway, so let's start. And first, I would like to give the floor to Eero Aljo from European Commission, from DG Ener, and please tell us what is the position of the European Commission vis-à-vis the Convent of Mayors. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and dear members of the Parliament and other listeners, watchers. It's a great pleasure to be here talking about my favorite topic, which is indeed Covenant of Mayors. I will now check if the sharing works. I believe I should do this way. Share. And this way. See if it connects. I hope you see my screen now.
Yeah, Eero, the only thing, if I may, is that usually when people from the Commission are sharing their screen, there is always some black boxes on it. I don't know if I'm the only one seeing them, because I think you have a protection things. So if you want, I have your presentation, and I don't think I have this type of protection on my computer. If that's fine with you. Because we have some banners in black that are covering part of the screen.
Yes, we see them. Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Well then it's maybe better that
I will share your presentation.
Okay. Well then I take this off.
But this is just the secret part of European Commission policy.
Yeah, this is we are not totally transparent apparently.
Maybe with the next yeah.
Oops, did I stop? No, I stopped sharing.
So let me try on my side.
Okay. Let's see. Well, then just take it away.
Is it working now from my screen or not?
Yes, it's working now. But now you see additional information on the right side. But maybe it doesn't matter. But we can use the full screen.
Okay, affichage, just a second. And starting again to share my screen.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
I see something else, but that should be fine. Just tell me, Eero, when you want me to move.
Okay. Well, let's go to the first slide right away. There we go. Okay, this one you have, of course, all seen. I'm not going to explain to you the Green Deal. You are all of us are very well familiar with it. The point I'm making here is that this is obviously the strategy that we are following and implementing now, and we have on the right side the climate neutrality target or in the middle actually, as the sort of main goal of our action. And that means that we are going heavily towards the implementation of activities in this policy area. So let's go to the next one. And I've put here a list of those main deliverables that have been produced here along the time, and some of them are actually bolded here. And the point I'm making here is that here is the connection indeed to the cities. Here is the connection to the Common of Mayors, obviously. So we have the climate law, we have the climate target plan, and now obviously the Fit for 55 package, which is the latest in this pile. So these are hugely ambitious projects, and we are getting in a situation where, in order to get these implemented, we need really all hands on the deck, so to say, and that is indeed one of the reasons why we are looking at the demand side of the energy transition system. If we talk about that, not just the supply and the production in energy terms, but also the demand side, and that's where the consumers, that's where citizens come in. Next, please. The climate target plan was obviously the basis of this whole calculation of the 55% target by 2030. And we've gone through the math, we've gone through the impact assessments. We came to this conclusion that this can be done and it's the right path, but we need all sectors on board. And now we have just started this exercise, and let's already jump to the next one. We have here the spiderweb of all these different legislative pieces that would need to be implemented, and which are now on your table in the Parliament and also in the Council. And this will be a complex exercise, of course, to first of all negotiate them, but then even more to put them into reality. And that is obviously something we want to do, because the whole goal here is to keep the leadership in the clean and green technology and sustainable activities, and that is what is going to be the good use of the taxpayers' money here. And the ambition level has been growing regularly here, or steadily. And again, when we are looking at how on earth we're going to manage this, so we need to ensure things like public acceptance of this whole activity. Next slide, please. And that's where we come to this picture, which says basically the whole message. We really need to have the mayors on board. We need to have the cities on board here as the one entity, one level of governance where really sort of like policy meets people, as somebody said in Mr. Timmermans' cabinet. And let's go ahead then. Next one. And I'm just taking here one of the directives or the package as an example. So the Energy Efficiency Directive. We know indeed the main goals of this. It's indeed raising the energy efficiency to 36-39% in terms of the primary or final energy consumption by 2030. So that's a sizable jump. And the member states will have their contributions to bring into this, and there are targets and sub-targets to that. And the energy efficiency principle, first principle, is going to be then sort of crafted in law if you all agree. And the big issue here is to ensure the inclusivity of this whole transition, so that we can avoid leaving anybody behind. And that's why energy poverty and consumer empowerment is a key activity. And when we look at this text, read it a bit more carefully, so we see that there are many areas where the cities need to act very decisively. And the one example is the 3% renovation requirement on public authorities, public buildings per year. And this applies also to the local authorities, also to the municipalities. So that means that there we need action. There's also the point on public procurement, that now we need to introduce energy efficiency requirements in public procurement. And in all these decarbonization plans, which are happening at all levels. And here, the onus, of course, is on the member states, the responsibility, but it's been written already in the proposal, the role of, not just role, the responsibility also of local and regional authorities. And actually, there is a specific explicit reference to the Covenant of Mayors in this context, to work together with local energy agencies, which are other key players to have us reach these targets. And that, I think, shows what has happened to the Covenant of Mayors over these years, that it's becoming more and more a mainstream element of the policies that the Commission is proposing, and we start seeing it in many of the formal documents. And of course, just to wrap up this, so energy efficiency, obviously, you cannot expect the local authorities to do that all alone, so they will need support. And that's why we are arguing that the member states will need to put financing and technical assistance and other support, give that type of support to the mayors, to the cities at their work. And of course, the Commission is going to do the same using its tools. Next, please. So this picture, I know, Fred, you're probably going to use the same one. So sorry about stealing your beautiful diagram or infographic. But I just wanted to make here also the point that when we look at this, these are showing objectives of the Covenant of Mayors signatories: affordability, fairness, decarbonization, resilience. So we're entering into climate adaptation there as well. And all these relevant activities of everyday life in our cities. So that shows, just this quick glance, we can see directly that you can have these topics handled in the Fit for 55 package everywhere. And that shows how much we actually depend even on the Covenant of Mayors specifically, but cities in a more broader sense on getting things done. And indeed, a local acceptance of our infrastructure building is just one example of that. But it's also outreach to the broader public. Next, please. And all this logic now connects to the question of Mr. Olbrycht, indeed, that what do we, as Commission, how do we view the Covenant here? So I think this picture sort of tries to explain that. So we have the laws, we have our top-down traditional activity that we propose and you decide on, but that's not really enough. It's very important, but it's not enough. And then we need to add this bottom-up activity, voluntary bottom-up activity, where indeed the Covenant of Mayors was the first and the largest initiative of its kind in this. It's been also then followed up by a number of other similar initiatives. The logos on the right show those. There's coal regions in transition platform, of course. There's the latest one, the 100 climate neutral smart cities. There is the smart cities one. There is energy poverty advisory hub and all this. So all that shows these types of activities have increased in importance. And of course, we all recall that in the Energy Union governance regulation. So we already actually sort of put introduced a requirement on member states to include the local authorities in these multi-level dialogues when they are developing their national energy and climate action plans. Next, please. And this Covenant of Mayors, well, you know, and Fred is going to discuss more this. The point here is indeed that these cities have been committing regularly first to the 2020, then to the 2030, and now are doing it for the 2050 targets in climate and energy terms. And they have shown this kind of like trailblazing mode on this. And that's also one of the reasons why there were a number of member states which were referring to the Covenant of Mayors in their national energy and climate action plans. Next, please. And here I try to sort of show this like interaction between the legislation and the Covenant of Mayors. And indeed, the main point is this complementarity, this top-down, bottom-up, which works very well. And then on the other hand, what the law brings to the Covenant is indeed setting the targets, giving the acknowledgement of the need for cities to be empowering the cities to act, be it about energy efficiency is obvious, but right to self-consumption, prosumers, local energy communities, and things like that. So setting the rules of the game, opening the opportunities, and then Covenant, on the other hand, is then showing how things can be implemented, doing things before the other ones as like front runners. And very importantly, they're also actually giving us policy feedback in meetings that we have between the mayoral board of the Covenant of Mayors and our commissioners, our vice presidents, Mr. Šefčovič, Arias Cañete in the last previous commission, and now Kadis Simpson. So we have these discussions, checking out ideas, testing ideas. It's very, very useful sort of brainstorming on what should be done in the different policy areas. And then public acceptance I already mentioned, so that's an obvious ado that the mayors have. At the end, they are the ones who can lift hurdles away from implementing the transition. Next, please. This model of the Covenant has gone global, actually. It worked a bit too well. It became indeed the largest initiative of its kind already in Europe. It spread organically to the European neighborhood first, and then broader, and then back in 2016. So the Commission and Michael Bloomberg joined up on an initiative which was then baptized Global Covenant of Mayors. And after that, actually, the Commission's been funding these types of regional covenants around the world, and you see on the map here, on several continents. And a number of directorate generals are putting money into this, a number of tens of millions. And the same thing, then Michael Bloomberg is also feeding in funds through his philanthropy. So it's gone much broader than we ever dreamt, and has become a player in the UNFCCC discussions, inputting ideas, inputting best practices and things like that into the UN process. Next, please. And now we are on my last and I would say most important slide. I think the chairman already started discussing on this. We've been discussing internally a bit that how should the involvement of the parliament ideally evolve in this. And I think what has happened so far is that the European Parliament has hosted these Covenant of Mayors ceremonies, and we had just the last one yesterday. This time, unfortunately, still in the virtual sense, but here you have a picture from 2018 when we were still in pre-COVID times, and we had our physical event in your hemicycle, and this is a great, hugely symbolic, extremely important in motivating the mayors. They love to come here, take the pictures, and we have we've had some quite famous people like Arnold Schwarzenegger participating in the past, and this has all been possible indeed thanks to the hospitality of the European Parliament. And indeed yesterday then President Sassoli was opening again the ceremony. So this is a fantastic tradition we have, and it is a lot of value in political terms in this. But I think the question comes up, and I think this urban intergroup is the right place to have that discussion on, should this partnership sort of evolve a bit further? We have been in discussions now, and Frederick in particular, with your colleagues in the Parliament about the future of Conference on the Future of Europe. That's something that might be a sort of next test case, but I think there could be potentially more done. But there really, I'm in your hands, and I would be very interested in hearing what you think that would make sense as next steps. And I think that was my last slide. Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, the last slide was very interesting because it showed that the cities can be a very good test for 55. You know, it can be FITO will be tested. The test can have the positive results and negative results. So I hope that it will be the test in sense to be tested how we can achieve the success. But I think that 50-55, which is very ambitious, but very complicated and very difficult to be approved by everybody, what we see in the Parliament. So that's why we need, as what you said, we need a constant dialogue with the cities. I mean, about it, and this, in this sense, test is important. So thank you very much. And I now we see. It was very interesting to show that the initiative of Quentin Mayors, there was a moment to change it only from European scale to the global scale. So now we will have the information from Frédéric Boyer, the head of Convent of Mayors, Office Europe. So I think this is very important because I remember the photos you were showing that it was the purely European initiative, but now this is exactly this, that with Antonio Tajani as the president of the Parliament, I remember, with Mr. Šefčovič and of course Arnold Schwarzenegger and Barroso. But now this initiative has been, like I said, also developed on the global stage. So I think that we will have some information from Frédéric about the European initiative, but also about the global initiative. So
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for the introductory words and the very good memory you have of the start of the covenant back in 2009 with the first ceremony, where we already had hundreds of people coming to to be part of and supporting the European and climate and energy framework. And at that time, that was, let's say, new policies for local authorities. So I think what has really changed in those last 12 years from the start is that climate and energy, or well, climate, has become a mainstream policy at local and also national level. And I think the movement of the youth of Greta Thunberg and others have pushed a lot local but also national politicians to take that, and European legislator to take the matter very seriously. And now I know from mayors, and you mentioned Eckhard Würzner, the mayor of Heidelberg, who was recently telling us that he really feels the pressure from his citizens to go even further, to be more ambitious. If not, he's concerned about the next elections, that he would not convince his citizens to be the right mayor for the next term. So that's the main, I would say, development that we've been witnessing in the covenant. Of course, the numbers and Eero briefly showed that. So I will I will also give more information on that. But clearly, this pressure coming from the society, and we could also witness in my country, France, where the biggest cities have gone to the Green Party. I mean, some of the green of the biggest cities in Belgium too, some years ago. So there is a growing concern. Cities declaring climate emergency, and then when they see that they have an opportunity to be part of a big movement such as the Covenant of Mayors, they do take the political commitment with their within their council. Well, Eero presented or stole this slide from me, so I won't come back on the vision that the mayors have to make their cities a better place to live. Very briefly on the numbers, that's just for the 27 member states. So we are above 10,000 signatories, very diverse. We have Warsaw, we have Paris, Stockholm, but we also have some small villages from different countries. Still, you mentioned that, Mr. Olbrycht, a big gap between countries such as Italy and Spain, with thousands of signatories compared to Germany, Netherlands, France, where cities are not really keen on signing up to the initiative. That doesn't mean they are not taking actions on climate, but they don't feel the added value of being part of the movement. And this is clearly something we need to change, and I will develop on that later. Just very quickly, also to explain to the participants today who don't have your knowledge about the history of the covenant, what is the journey of a city within the initiative? First, and that's a very important thing, the mayor can only sign if he has the approval of the municipal council or the board. So that has to go through a debate internally within the city. And now, today, the commitment is about what Eero just presented. So we are aligned with the EU framework. So we're talking about climate neutrality by 2050. We're talking about 55% that we still need to understand what are the national targets, but still there is a very high ambition. So they need to agree on that. They need to commit to reach this level of decarbonization targets. They also need to commit to become resilient. So that's the part on adaptation to climate change, which is also very important. And finally, they need to commit to alleviate energy poverty. When they have this political commitment, they need to set the targets. They need to look at what is the current situation in their city, and they are allowed, this is what we call emission inventory. They are allowed to go back in the previous years if they have the data. They also need to make an assessment of the risks. What are the risks that the city are having in terms of climate change? Flooding, storms, and so on. Droughts, fire that are related to climate change. So when this assessment is done and then when they have defined their baseline, they need to develop an action plan. How they're going to reach the targets by 2030, by 2050. So this is what we call a sustainable energy and climate action plan. This document, in some countries that's mandatory. Let's take France again. They have a mandatory action plan to do. In other countries, that's not. So that's why the covenant is bringing an added value to those cities who don't have to do it in a top-down way. Then this action plan will be analyzed, checked by the European Commission Joint Research Center that will provide feedback to the cities. And then the city has to act, has to implement actions on adaptation, on mitigation. So here we're covering sectors that Eero mentioned through the energy efficiency. So the building sector, obviously, not only the public, but also the tertiary and the residential buildings. And obviously mobility, which is also a very important sector. The production of renewable energy at local level has been growing in the recent years, and also thanks to the new legislation on the development of energy community. So those are sectors, policies, competences that cities are having and are very important, and for which they have to act, and then also to check whether the actions are delivering in terms of greenhouse gas reduction. And there is this regular reporting every 2 years that the cities have to do. Another very important element that we brought, that the mayors brought into this new commitment for 2050 is, well, going beyond the, let's say, usual competences of a local authority, managing public transport, managing schools, public buildings, providing subsidies to support citizens to refurbish their house. Here, the dimension we wanted to bring, also leveraging the launch of the European Climate Pact by Executive Vice President Timmermans, was to say, okay, who are best placed than mayors and local administration to get everyone on board of the transition? Mayors, they are in contact on a daily basis. They have to fix the problems of citizens. They have to improve their quality of life. So they should be best placed to organize new local governance models so that citizens feel part and are really engaging into improving their quality of life. And we have very good example. The city of Nantes was awarded the European Capital of Innovation because they organized a big debate of the transition. The city of Leuven in Belgium, 2 years after, also got this prize because they've been setting up a very innovative governance model. Yesterday, we had Munich explaining how they are engaging with the industry and convincing the industry to take a decarbonization target in the next years, and so on and so forth. There are those examples popping up in Europe, and we need to amplify that. We need every city to do it, to get young people, but also the business sector acting and making a change to try to improve the situation in terms of climate change. So that's the engaged part, and we will be asking cities to organize a local climate pact as part of their new commitment. So to summarize, a city, when joining the covenant, has to work on mitigating the climate change, adapting, so making their community resilient to the threat of climate change, alleviating energy poverty, and how they have to do that is by engaging all the stakeholders of the city, and not doing it alone in a top-down way, but really having everyone on board for this transition. I don't want to go, I mean, the flashback is just to show how the important thing of this initiative, and that might be, although it's been inspiring regional covenants and the global covenant, what is very specific about the covenant in Europe is that it has always been attached to the framework, to the legislative framework that the Parliament with the other EU institutions has been voting for. So we started with the 310/20 in 2008, and then we went to embracing adaptation to climate change back in 2014, then the 40% by 2030 in 2015, and in 2021, this new 55%, the climate neutrality target by 2050. So always very much embedded into the framework as a kind of building block, and as Eero rightly pointed, so not a legislative one, but enabling cities to be part of supporting this ambitious target Europe has been setting. Another important thing, and Mr. Chairman, you mentioned that in your introductory words. Well, we started back in 2009 without having a head. There was a head of office. I was not the person in charge at that moment, but I'm not a politician. I'm just operationally delivering a work plan. But we needed some politicians to represent the covenant, to discuss with the members of the Parliament, to discuss with commissioners, to discuss with the delegation of US mayors coming to Brussels, and we were missing that. And only in 2017 we set up this board of the Covenant of Mayors. It's important to remember that, I mean, the Covenant has no formal, it's not an organization. I work for Energy Cities. We are a network. We have a French NGO. The Covenant is a political movement of mayors in Europe. The office is financed by the European Commission. but there is no legal status of the movement. So the board is a kind of informal board. So no, he's not voting any budget or defining a work plan of activities, but they are representing, in a way, the community of signatories. That's why we have a very diverse, as you can see, in terms of gender, in terms of countries represented, in terms of size of cities, but also including, as you can see, the deputy president of the province of Barcelona, because the covenant is not only towns and cities, it's also regions, provinces that are really helping municipalities to deliver and to make their transition. Actually, I mean, I had invited some of them, and particularly the mayor of Warsaw, Rafał Trzaskowski, who back in April 2021, when we were launching the new phase of the covenant, he mentioned that, okay, as a former MEP, and I think as someone who knows very well the chairman of the Urban Intergroup, he said, okay, we need to connect with the parliament. We need to have them as allies. So we will work with them. So unfortunately, Mr. Trzaskowski wanted to attend today, but at the end, he could not make it. But this connection between the members of the parliaments and mayors is very important. I think this is something we can definitely improve in the future. So thanks again for the opportunity to present the initiative today, and I'm convinced we can develop that further in the future. In addition to this board, together with the Committee of the Regions, we have also identified national ambassadors. So one representative, the Committee of the Region, organize all this work between the different political groups and the national delegations, and they appointed one representative per country, which will be very useful into another element that we briefly discussed before, and Eero mentioned the National Energy and Climate Plan, the multi-level governance. The covenant has been successfully developing as a bottom-up between the cities and the Commission, but clearly now we can see that if we don't get the member states on board, we would fail collectively to reach our ambition of making Europe climate neutral. Member states can be obstacles to cities that want to deliver, because there are legislation that does not allow them to innovate or to quickly develop renewable energy production stations or wind farms or so on. And they have to wait 5-10 years to get an approval at the national level. Also in terms of finance, and with the recovery, I mean, we know how much member states have now money to deliver, and the money is not always reaching the mayors who would have plenty of buildings to refurbish. So again, supporting this exchange between the different levels is one of the key lever we have in the future, and we need to work on that. And for that, I think also the contribution of members of the parliament would be very important. So that's the board, the national ambassadors that we will use to strengthen this multi-level governance. And finally, very briefly, and the slide is maybe not readable from outside, but it's just to quickly explain the operational governance. As I said, I work for a network of cities. We are 6 European networks working for the Covenant of Mayors Office and financed by the European Commission. So, and you would probably all know those networks. So, well, Energy Cities, Eurocities, the network of largest cities, Climate Alliance. We have the Council of European Municipalities and Regions. We have ICLEI. We have FEDAREN. And I think I'm not forgetting any of them. No. So those 6 networks in a very good cooperation beyond the contract we have, I think, with DG Energy and DG Climate Action from the European Commission is delivering the initiative. And I also mentioned the Joint Research Center involved into the evaluation, the assessment of what the cities are doing. So that's a good win-win, I would say, between the European Commission, networks of cities, the support of the European Parliament, the Committee of the Regions also plays an important role into mobilizing and supporting politically the initiative. And again, it's been 12 years. When we started, some people were saying it was just to try. to try to get 200, 300 cities, the biggest one, where we have 10,000 today. And again, we've been exporting to other regions of the world. So that to show that the European Commission sees an opportunity for its development and cooperation objective with Sub-Saharan Africa, or when looking at Asia or North America, looking for opportunities for our companies with the cities to go there and export our savoir-faire of Europe. So that's, I think that has demonstrated the importance of this bottom-up approach of a voluntary commitment. And again, also Eero put on the slide the Green City Accord. So going on to other very important sectors of activities that mayors have to fix locally. They have no choice. The citizens are asking for better air quality, for better water, and so on and so forth. And I think we have a good approach to implement or to reach in beyond the legislation objective that the European Commission has been setting with the EU Green Deal, and I really hope that the next 10 years will be even more successful for the Covenant and for Europe to do the transition. So thanks a lot for the time, and happy to answer any question.
Yes, thank you. I'm just looking at the chat. If there is anybody who wants to take the floor and to ask you the questions, I don't see now. So I would like to go back to what you said, that where is the difference coming from with especially the different activity of the mayors in this field in different parts of Europe? You mentioned Spain and Italy. What about the other parts of Europe? For example, the Central Eastern Europe, and what about the Nordic countries, etc.? What is the difference? And from your point of view, what is the reason of this kind of differences?
Well, very briefly for Spain and Italy, let's start with let's say the places where we have the biggest numbers of signatories, and that's really huge. I mean, we're talking about 4,000 municipalities in Italy. So half of the Italian municipalities are signatories of the Covenant, and 2,000, I think, in Spain. This is due to the organization of those countries. So the link with the provinces and the regions, because the provinces and the regions were in those two countries joining as what we call coordinators. They made a commitment within the Covenant of Mayors to help the municipalities, and they have regional energy agencies. They've been using the structural funds, and I remember you, Mr. Olbrycht, in the past saying sustainable energy action plan should be passport to the EU funding. Well, actually, some regions did that. I think the European Commission could not really do it completely, but still they've been finding ways to ensure that cities that want to benefit from the smart cities communities, for instance, they have to develop a sustainable energy action plan approved by the European Commission Joint Research Center. So again, Italy and Spain, very successful due to the participation of provinces and regions. If I take my country, France, we have the same organization, but we had difficulty to get this level of cooperation between French regions and municipalities. The Nordic countries, they are very ambitious in terms of climate. Of course, when you see at the cities that are aiming at climate neutrality by 2030, the Stockholm, the Lahti, even before Lahti, I think it's 2025. Well, I think in a way, they are a bit blessed by nature, by their citizens who are already much more aware of that, by their capacities to leverage their surroundings in terms of, for instance, development of renewable energy. So they don't see the added value of the Covenant because they are much more ambitious than what the Covenant is asking. This is something, and Eero knows, we're trying to fix that. We're trying to show them that the Covenant is for everyone, for the front runners and for the ones that are lagging a bit behind. some countries, Poland and other Central Eastern European countries have a very difficult context to be so ambitious. A political one in some cases, with national governments that are not as mobilized or ambitious in terms of climate, of course. Yesterday, the mayor of Prague mentioned that during the ceremony, the fact that he's very committed, but that he's lacking the support of his government. So that again, that's why the importance of trying to work on the multi-level governance and see how, beyond the political discussions, how we can ensure good cooperation, an efficient subsidiarity, because again, local authorities are well placed to develop some activities when it comes to the development of refurbishment of buildings, urban mobility. They are the one in charge. So with the good tools, with a legislation, again, that is not putting too much hurdles to them, they can deliver. So that's the, I mean, in a way, it's difficult to summarize Europe in three categories: the front runners, the one with a more difficult context, because the contexts are very, very different. But we see, we see progress in terms of cities joining from all countries at the moment. And with our capacities, we intend to go further by delivering activities directly in the country. Frédéric Boyer from Brussels cannot do much. We need to work with partners in Poland, in Hungary, so that they can deliver, they can interact with politicians and local administration to get them on board. That's very important.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, react perhaps add a word or two. So in terms of what the cities are doing in concrete terms in these different regions. So indeed, it varies. It can be smart city developments in I don't know, Netherlands or indeed the Nordic countries. That's quite a big area of activity, and indeed renewable energy related activities. But then we see renovation is of course the all-round activity, changing street lighting, things, very concrete things, and those are happening everywhere. And for instance, you mentioned Poland, I just from energy discussions otherwise, so I know about the energy clusters, the local energy clusters, which are in Poland, and those are very interesting way of going down this road. So there are solutions found there, and indeed take Croatia, for example, where we have an extremely active mayor also in the board, or energy agency director. So the energy agency has been mobilizing a range of activities, starting from renovation to renewable introduction to smart city developments and things like that. So it's quite diverse. And what we've noticed in terms of, one word still about the Nordics, I come from Finland, so I have this tendency, of course, to look a bit what's going on there. So indeed, the fact that cities many times have been more, let's say, more ambitious than Covenant was. So this was something that was a problem from our point of view. Now that has changed, because now we have indeed, we have the climate neutrality target, and that is showing, I expect that to change the situation quite a bit. And then it's about awareness. Sometimes people just do not know. And this is where we saw an example of that in Helsinki, for instance. So indeed, Markku Markkula, at that time president of the Committee of Regions, organized an event there, called together municipalities, and on one go we had 10 cities or towns joining. So it's sometimes just the lack of knowledge. But of course, it's also financing, which is a key point there. Thank you. I believe you're muted.
Your microphone is muted.
Yes, I want just to ask the participants if anybody wants to take the floor and ask questions to our speakers. I don't see it on the chat, so there may be someone who just want to ask the question from the...
If they are too shy, I would like to give an example of, because Zero was mentioning, yes, Nordic countries and the target that might look not ambitious enough for them. We are discussing at the moment with the Swedish cities, but also with the ministry there, to try to define a higher target for within the covenant for Swedish municipalities. So they are running a survey, and they might come up and ask the European Commission if we can set as a target for Swedish municipalities who want to join the covenant 63% by 2030. And that would be perfect. That would be, again, a confirmation that this is a bottom-up movement. If Swedish municipalities want to go higher than 55, that's fine. They can define the target, and then let's see which city is willing to do so. So I hope we can do the same in other countries. That's the first concrete case we are trying at the moment. It's the easiest one. Sweden has a higher target than 55. So, but still, in terms of governance, just to show you that the covenant is this kind of flexible initiative that we have.
Are you going to organize a competition?
Between the cities, I mean, that's not the, again, no, between the countries, that would be very interesting. Now, between the cities, that's not what we aim at, but indeed giving more visibility to those front runners. And Eero mentioned the new initiative, the mission for 100 climate neutral and smart cities. It's important that we connect the two. Those front runners have to support the other territories. And again, the covenant, we're talking about 10,000, but as you know, in Europe, we have 140,000 municipalities of different size, of different capacities. And all of them need to make this transition for Europe for Europe and for the planet to survive. So there will be a huge necessity to help the municipalities. And that clearly, I mean, I don't think Europe can afford it. So that's why we need the member states. We will need private investment to step into that. But again, here again, because with your introduction and your presentation of what we had in 2009, today there were huge developments, new initiatives. I would like to flag the European City Facility. So that's direct cascade funding, reaching medium towns to provide technical assistance, paying technical assistance for them to develop a bankable project. And most of those projects are for renewable energy or for refurbishment of building. And yesterday,
can you just develop a little bit about it, about this facility?
So that's EU money that coordinated by a secretariat that is launching call for application, where the city has to say, okay, I want to refurbish those, I mean, my public schools. But I need to make a bankable project for that. So I need support. And they would apply and they would get up to, I think it's 100,000 euros to pay engineering, financial and technical engineering to develop a project that a bank could finance. So that's been very successful. The initiative was launched like a year and a half ago. There are 3 rounds of call for application. We always received, the secretariat received like 500 applications, a very tough competition. Then they have to select around, I think, 100 of them. And it's working really fine because that provides capacities for the cities to get funding to implement a very important project. And the same has been announced yesterday by Vice President Timmermans, will be implemented through the Covenant of Mayors Office for adaptation to climate change. That will start in 2022. So progressively, in addition to the structural funds and all these topics you already know, that then depends on member states or managing authorities. Here it's direct funding going from Brussels to the cities to implement climate and energy transition.
Yeah, I think that it can be very useful because I know some of our participants and our partners of the intergroup, they know about these facilities. I mean, the old one and the new one, but some of them, they have no information. But it would be very good if you can just send us the information of all And probably to the question is to Eero, is also if we have the very concrete information, what are the initiatives in the Commission, which are directly presented from the European level, which can be possible to be received by the cities which are doing the effort. So any initiative, we are absolutely ready to distribute the information and to make it as broad as possible, and to, of course, you are doing it among the common domains, but we can do it also among the members of the parliament to let them know, because they are elected in many places of Europe and they can just transfer the information to the mayors. So if any information about the new initiatives, new facilities, which are possible to be, achieved by the cities on the European level will be very, very useful, because we can distribute the information. Can we count on you that we will get it? This information, and we will distribute it. Okay. Okay. I don't see any. Oh, there is some chat.
Some comments from myself. I've been adding.
Okay. Thank you. So the policy support facility will be in place in January 2021. Okay. Very important information. So we will wait for the next information about this in future. So I think that is very useful for us. I have I don't know if we have already Marcos Rossempere with us. Kasia, do we have Marcos now or not? But if not, I have another question which is very important for me. What is the qualitative change from the moment where there was the European Conference of Mayors and global? Does it change anything for European Conference of Mayors to be in the global network supported by Bloomberg, etc.? So, is there any qualitative change of the action, or is this just good example from Europe, which is distributed around the world? My question is to Rodriguez.
Will you take it further?
Maybe to Eero. I can compliment, of course.
Well, yeah, okay. I say a couple of things, but Frederick, I think you're well placed to see it directly from the Covenant side. So the Global Covenant changed things indeed, in the sense that there was a new set of interlocutors or also city networks like C40, which came and UCLG on the international side, which joined that initiative. And that brought also some issues related to reporting. So because there was a previous initiative by Michael Bloomberg called Compact of Mayors, which was merged together with the Covenant of Mayors to become the Global Covenant. And there was some, we had to work quite a lot with on issues and standards so that we have a coherent way of reporting, but also of encouraging, of rewarding the cities in terms of when they reach different steps. So we have badging systems, which are in a way, to me, first sounded like something rather superficial and unimportant, but we noticed how much that actually means to receive a badge for a step in planning if your city has achieved something like that. So this was a motivational issue, which we have also worked together with the Global Covenant. Then I think indeed much of it is Europe sort of giving examples worldwide on how you can do things in a quite an efficient way, and some regions have taken that very directly, like Japan, for instance. There's a Covenant of Mayors in Japan, which is supported by us, and they are quite a lot copying the methodology that we're doing. Other regions have taken a bit of a different approach, localizing it more into their realities, and then also in the city networks and others which are operational there. Some of them funded by Michael Bloomberg, indeed. So there's been more of a different version of the same initiative. And I think one issue has been, we've been doing, and Frederick, a lot of awareness raising, a lot of training in this context of the other regions which are less advanced, and on issues such as accountability in a way, because that's also a big thing in the Covenant of Mayors. So like Fred explained, so there's a plan, there's a implementation of the plan, there's monitoring. So the idea is that if you follow the steps of the covenant, so you're in and you get all support, but if you stop doing anything, so you will be suspended. So the idea is there's a bit of a check that things are done seriously. And then there's the JRC action, which is bringing the more scientific control or advice into looking at what is your plan realistic? Can you actually reach your goal with those steps? So that there's been a lot of this bringing, particularly for us, exporting this scientific logic to validation and information, that type of things. Then what is interesting is concerns financing, is that in the Global Covenant, we have a specific working group dealing only on financing, looking at innovative ways, new ways, how to facilitate indeed access to funds, access to finance. And that is something which is, I think, a good added value of the Global Covenant. So what is developed in that group, we're going to check whether that works in Europe as well. And then indeed I mentioned in the chat the GAP fund, the City GAP fund. This was set up, and we have their funders, German government, Luxembourg, and those are the ones that I remember now. The EIB is involved, the World Bank is involved, and all that. So we have a new discussion going around that, and now we are doing that also partially together with the city's mission that was mentioned earlier, because there's a strong focus in looking at new resources for cities. So I'm expecting that will lead to some results that could be then spread over throughout the covenant signatories, so that there would be like a win-win situation here as well. So those 100 cities, they will do a bit of like a front running, and we expect to get the learnings, and that we can then help the covenant membership to go further. But Frederick, please, over to you.
I would just add two things. First, I think the development of the Global Covenant and of regional offices, I think it's very important to remember that the Commission there is Bloomberg Philanthropy, and then there is the European Commission financing offices across the world. And that was the way I see it from my side as a network and working for the Covenant Europe, is that they came and filled the gap, because we had signatories. We had Bogota, we had Christchurch in New Zealand, we had 170 cities from the Western Balkans. And we, paid by a European program that is supposed to deal with EU member states and EFTA countries, were also responding to cities that were not in our geographical coverage of the contract, because mayors wanted to join the movement from Europe, but also from outside. So luckily, the Commission has been financing offices, starting with the East neighborhood countries, Ukraine to Kazakhstan, and then the Med, Maghreb, Mashrek, and then Sub-Saharan Africa, and then the Global Covenant stepped in. So that's the first point, to respond to a kind of need of local authorities from different regions. Then as a network, for me, it's great to see that the European Commission, different DGs are caring about what cities are doing. Again, to fit their objective, policy development, cooperation, promotion of, again, the company or economic development. And so that's very important. And that also led to, as I said before, the Green City Accord. So looking at other sectors, biodiversity, air quality, water, and so on. Look, we can get cities voluntarily committing and helping us meeting the legislation, to put it very bluntly. So this is very positive for us as network of cities. We see that the institutions take cities as partner. Some maybe too often, maybe I can advocate a little bit to implement legislation, when we have to go beyond, because again, legislation can be an obstacle to mayors innovating, and they need to innovate to fix those problems. And finally, but Eero mentioned it, this opportunity again to promote the European excellence on some urban policies. That's very important. But also some of our European cities are very interested by learning from others. So the peer-to-peer exchange can go both ways in that case.
Yes, thank you. And I understand that what is very important. I mean, first that what you just said, the institutions are now listening to the cities. I must say, better later than never. But because it was not always the case. Very often the cities were just they charged with the consequences of legislation, and then they didn't take part in this. So fortunately, we had also the urban agenda with the partnerships, but also the element of what Eero said is the question of the 100 cities. I think, which is also the initiative of European Commission. 100 climate neutral cities. By the way, the 100 cities are the members of Covenant, or they will be the member of Covenant, or Covenant wants them to be the member. Any complementarity between the two?
I would expect there to be Covenant cities indeed among those 100, and I hope that's the case, because they should be then kind of ambassadors of this activity within the Covenant family. So, but there's going to be a launch of an expression of interest to cities in Europe to join that new initiative. Now it's in November it starts. So we will see then who will step forward. But from the context we've already had, so we know that there are cities among the Covenant who are very seriously considering this. So I would expect that to happen. And I think it's good because they are totally aligned, the two initiatives, so it's they can reinforce each other.
Yeah, but of course, my question is it's not to make to make jokes about the whole situation, but the reality is that I hope the Covenant mayors and the Commission, because I asked them about ownership. If the Commission is very clear with financing the Secretariat, I think this is something which is very important, because it should allow the Commission, different DGs, to cooperate, which you know and I know that this is not the strongest point of European Commission. I mean, the cooperation between different DGs. This is my experience as a member of the Parliament. But I hope that this case, I mean, it's so important. I mean, the new challenges are so important that it requires the first cooperation, secondly, the complementarity of different actions. This is not the time of symbolic actions. It's like what I asked about the competition. You know, there are different points of departure of the cities. Some of them started some years ago, like Nordic, from completely different point than, for example, the cities in my country, but also including the southern cities. The point of departure was completely different. So to make the competition is completely unfair. But the question how to help each other is important. How to exchange the information, how to achieve the goals. Probably the progress will not be the same. So there are some front runners and the others. But the question is, the progress is important. The progress is important, and not the final result, because next year there will not the same situation. I have a very technical question. Do you have enough financial resources in Secretariat to do everything?
It depends. It depends what we are requested to do. I think we are. I mean, but again, I'm talking under the control of Eero. I think we've been delivering what we have to do as a Secretariat. So in our contract, then if it's do we have enough to support and to get all the cities doing their transition? No. But as I said before, the European Commission doesn't have enough money for that. We need to find other ways. The multi-level governance is very important because member states have capacities, not only financial, but also technical. They have national energy agencies that can provide, that can help municipalities to develop action plan, to get access to data. And the basic thing to do a good action plan is also to get access to data. In some countries, the cities cannot have access to data because they are in the hands of energy utilities. So you see, again, the importance of getting the national level to unlock some obstacles that cities are facing. Because without a good knowledge of how much you're consuming, it's difficult to take action.
Yeah, but you are not politician, but it's very diplomatic answer. Telling the truth.
We would need more.
Maybe I can say I support Frederick there, and I think Mr. Olbrycht, you're on the right track here. Obviously, we would love to have a little bit more money on this initiative, and I think what is good, and I react a little bit to your comment about the different DGs and things like that. There, we've made enormous progress. I think we have a very good situation there, and I can say, because I worked a lot on that when we were sitting together the Global Covenant Mayors part. So we actually pulled together 5 DGs to discuss this, how we would do it, and we pulled together money from different budget lines, from different DGs, all together in order to, in this case, finance the Central Secretariat in Brussels to coordinate all this global activity. And indeed, we have now there, we have, of course, ENER, we have Klima, we have the current INTPA, ex-DevCo, so colleagues, and we have the FBI, the Foreign Policy Instruments, and we have also, Regio was connected to this through the FBI connection. And who am I forgetting? We have DG NEAR, which is financing activities in the neighborhood. So it shows that we have many on board. We have DG RTD recently, who has started also involving the Global Covenant strongly in the mission innovation, for instance, and so on. So I think there's a very good collaboration between the different departments of the Commission in this. And then when we look at Europe, in particular the European Covenant, so I think Frederick's team is doing indeed an excellent job with the funds you have from us, and it's true that it would be certainly good to have more funding to be able to help with also give an example, for instance, these regional coordinators that are so key in the different countries. So for instance, to train them, to help them get more hands-on and more effective at their work. And then this early project cycle finance, that what the policy facility is indeed looking into, that we see that this is where the great need is, and in the assistance, how to write ideas that are identified at the city level, how to turn them into financial language so that you can actually go to bankers and go to investors and have them financed. Because the money is there. I think the big funds of money are available. Also, the member states have, of course, through the structural funds and others. But it's to get from that policy idea, have the capacity to write that into financial language, and go and knock on the door on the investors. That's where the gap is actually, and this is the thing.
Yeah, okay, but it means that the money can be found, and the member states can help, and the others can do it. But the question, they really want to do it. But we have the experience, as you remember, with the Secretariat of the Urban Agenda. And of course, it was our activity as an urban intergroup to guarantee money for the Secretariat. And that was the push, so the first step. So I don't want to suggest you clearly, but why not thinking about the next year, some kind of preparatory action or pilot project, maybe preparatory action, so we can ask for money for this something which is new, etc. Just to motivate the other institutions to start doing. But the only condition is that if we work together and we prepare something, the additional money, so the other DG from the Commission will not block it, which was sometimes the case. So this is just the offer. This is just the offer, and I think that let's think about the next year and proposing something which will be new, and which can give us the possibility to show that the Parliament is involved in, for example, trying to find money for this very interesting action. Is it okay? I mean, if you agree, Frederic.
No, of course, I will never say no to such a proposal, but and particularly when it is to try to engage again the national level. But I would also like to see this opportunity. You're a member of the parliaments, of the European parliaments. You have contacts with national parliaments, with national politicians. And I think it's also with mayors, obviously, in your constituency. Yeah. I think this is very important that you also help us. Well, first, getting mayors signing up in your constituency. They have to be part of the movement. They need to bring their political voice. The most mayors we get, the loudest we speak, and then we can go and we can ask more money to Franz Timmermans or to other people. That's very important. And then also but I insist at national level, because we need mayors, and that's why having Rafał Trzaskowski to go and vocally explain how the challenges cities are facing, it is very important, even in very difficult political context. So bring the mayors to us, help us getting the national support. And then if in addition, the urban intergroup can find a way to get additional funding for specific activities, there is no lack of, no lack of ideas of activities we could implement, of course.
Very, very short suggestion, because, today in the Parliament, all the political groups are green. I mean, all of them. I mean, they are not just making the cooperation who is greener than the others. So I think that this is a good moment. This is the good moment to distribute the information about the Convent of Mayors. Very short, very clear, to give it to the members and give them to put it on their tables, to give it to their hands, and not to send something or to organize a ceremony. We can do it. We can do it. So this is the moment. But it should be very concrete. I mean, just action numbers, plans for future. And I think that because now most of the members are interested in the debate about the energy consumption. This is about the climate change, etc. Most of them. So I think it can be very interesting. So let's do something together. Let's make it very concrete. But we know how to do it with the members. I mean, how to put the information just directly to the members who are interested. I think this is very important. Okay, so I think that we are going slowly to the end of our meeting. We have now our colleague from the Urban Intergroup, Marcos Rossempere, who is with us. Marcos, the floor is yours, just for final remarks, please.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you for giving me the floor, and thanks to all the participants in this meeting. I'm sorry for being in my car, but you are. I was in the middle of a trip and I could not be in another place. I'm very sorry for being here. Thank you also, especially to Mr. Eero Ailio from the European Commission and Mr. Frederic Breuer from the Office of the Covenant of Mayors for their presentation. And I do agree with the last questions. I think we all the MEPs are involved and committed with this, and we need to discuss and go on with more money, more budget, and preparatory actions or pilot projects. And Jan, you will have my support on this, of course. And I also want to thank you for all your work in this urban intergroup, and especially for this great coordination and speed in organizing this meeting just only one day after the Covenant of Mayors event that took place yesterday. Yesterday, we were able to hear and see how mayors and their cities are increasingly committed to the cause. Examples such as the city of Grenoble, the green capital for 2022, where they have reduced energy consumption by 5% in the city, and next year they will achieve 10% renewable energy production. Or, for example, the city of Tampere, which has drawn up a plan with more than 200 actions to reduce its emissions, with measures such as general renovation of public transport and close cooperation with businesses to achieve climate targets. Or, for example, Prague, whose government has approved an action plan to combat the climate crisis with several lines of actions, such as the development of a sustainable transport system, the upgrading and increase of green areas in cities, and the increased use of renewable energies. Cities must be leaders and play a key role in climate action. I am very committed to that because, as you know, I am a full professor of urban planning. I am always committed with cities. As we already know, the levels of energy consumption and pollution in urban areas are worrying. Although cities occupy only 3% of Earth's surface, they account 60 to 80 of energy consumption and 75 of carbon emissions. The United Nations Habitat Program estimates that 60% of the world's population will live in cities by 2030. This growth is accompanied by increased demands for jobs, transport, and affordable housing, as well as higher energy and water consumptions and waste generation. Cities must take action to combat climate change by assessing roadmaps that take into account objectives such as the following: decarbonize transport, strengthen buildings requirements, increase access to green energy, and implement stable regulation with well-designed fiscal policy mechanisms to stimulate the use of clean technologies, and set targets to and disseminate progress to all citizens, establishing benchmarking and citizens' processes to engage the population. In addition to these general measures, I would like to add a few things that may be of particular interest to me, which I consider to be urban initiatives that can help the climate transition. For example, the use of rooftops as energy generating spaces, solar roofs, or with green roof solutions, which can contribute biodiversity and capture carbon, while at the same time favoring the climate comfort into the building. Others, such recovery of public spaces or of the main streets of the cities, or the reactivation of urban voids for the benefit of citizens, or for example, the integral rehabilitations or refurbishing of housing, not only taking into consideration the energy aspect, but also the functioning spatially and new ways of living. This is very important because we do not live as we did in the past. In my view, the time is right for cities to play a more active role in pursuing this goal towards climate neutrality. I agree with Frederic Boyer that we need more mayors, more cities. In my country, I am going to push more cities to enter into this. The new Leipzig Charter, or our European Urban Agenda, already speaks of the transformative power of European cities. Cities are places of pluralism, creativity, solidarity, and laboratories for new forms of problem solving and test beds for social innovation. In their different scales and dimensions, cities must continue to transform in this direction towards comprehensive urban sustainability. For urban transformation to be real, the social, ecological, and economic dimensions of sustainable development must be brought together. Thus, this charter also understands that cities have three dimensions: the just city, the green city, and the productive city. And this is the second dimension that must prioritize the transformative power of cities to combat global warming and achieve environmental quality in air, water, and soil and land use. In addition to the urban agenda, we have other European initiatives that will help cities achieve climate neutrality, the renovation wave and the new European Bauhaus. As you may know, I am very, very committed to the new European Bauhaus initiative. We have founded a friendship group on the parliament, and we are taking the lead to this initiative with the European Commission. This renovation must go beyond the European building stock, public and private buildings, and must also go beyond the renovation of public spaces. In addition to the renovation wave, the new European Bauhaus was born, which for the first time puts architecture and urban planning at the heart of European funding policies, and is committed to changing the direction of investment to improve the lives of citizens and leave no one behind. The past 15th of September, the European Commission launched its official communication on the European Bauhaus, and where it finally details the intentions for this initiative and starts the negotiation process with other European institutions as the European Parliament. In short, this new European Bauhaus is an unprecedented opportunity to rethink our built environment. I think it's very important, our built environment, to improve the quality of our architecture, our urban planning, and to apply these criteria to the projects to be submitted to the recovery plan funds. To conclude, I am finishing. I would like to bring you an example of cities' commitment to achieving climate goals. The CTS initiative, CTS 2030, is part of the Horizon program, a research project promoted by the European Commission called 100 Climate Neutral Cities in Europe by 2030 and for citizens. This initiative seeks to place Spain, for example, at the forefront of climate action by giving a leading role to cities as the main agents of change. To this end, I am putting examples of my country, but there are on other countries. The four largest Spanish cities, Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, and Seville, have committed to intensifying measures to move toward climate neutrality by 2030. It is, I am finishing. It is clear that the fight against climate change is everyone's business, and that we cannot entrust the future of our planet to decisions taken only at the political level. But citizens cannot undertake this task alone. Municipalities must take the lead in urban climate change mitigation and adaptation action, promoting sustainable policies and investing in innovative ideas to reduce their carbon footprint. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all your efforts, and thank you for inviting me this morning to these conclusion remarks. Thank you very much. I am at your entire disposition. Thank you, Jan.
Yes, thank you, Marcos, for joining us even during your travel. I think that for the participants, your presentation was a proof that we are trying to prove that among us, it's not only the politicians, but we have the professionals who are politicians. So I think this is very important. That especially when your knowledge about the urban issues is something that that's why I think we can be helpful in the parliament, and that's why we need this kind of close cooperation with the whole network. And what I just wrote down, this is not the legal body, but this is the movement. So I think that as a movement, I think you can count on our support. And I think together with Marcos and our colleagues, we can think about the way we can first distribute the information and for our colleagues and next to support the whole action. All right, so I'd like to thank you very much, the speakers, all the participants, and let's do it, and let's prepare something with the information about the Convent of Mayors for all the members of the Parliament. And I would like to invite you for our next meetings of our Urban Intergroup. But I hope that there will be the time that we will meet personally, or what we call physically, and not only for remote. But I mean, better this way than nothing. So we have to keep the contact and to wait for better times. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.